So, question for you, Nicholas, that it's interesting that you find that the sort of action of making a referral works out to be equivalent to just co-location.
Yeah.
And eliciting referrals are very costly, right? Like somebody has to do something to do that. So it seems like what you're finding is really powerful from an actual implementation point of view, right? Because people don't generally, again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think eliciting referrals is costly. But if it's equivalent to just knowing that you're together, then that seems like a pretty, sorry.
Right. So my perspective on mobile advertising is that it's actually very hard to get a response from people. So we've done some other work on display advertising, and when you move around, you're not just hanging around typically, but you have an objective. You are kind of like walking to school or walking to work. So it's actually kind of difficult to engage you and make you depart from your original objective. And however, you just by moving around, you generate a lot of information about yourself. And I think that where there might be a gold mine is in learning how you can exploit this information. Much more so than kind of like asking you to do things for the marketer. People just don't want to be asked to do things.
Excellent. So let me segue into actually questions from the audience by asking a question to the audience. So how many of you, those from the industry, are involved in running randomized experiments like the ones Ananda described, or would like to be involved, I guess? Well, at least I think. Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's see one hand. So you are involved or would like to be involved?
Already doing it.
Excellent.
Awesome.
I think for the rest of you, I think you can see from Ananda's finding that actually it's a sales pitch, right? There's a lot of opportunity. Okay, so with that, let me just open it up.
Nick?
So, the experiment, you had two factors you were manipulating. You were manipulating the availability of distance, right? You were also manipulating the ranking by distance, right? You had a 2x2. So were any of those factors actually important? Because it seemed like you were focusing actually on kind of measured variables as opposed to the manipulated factors.
Yeah, no, we did it one at a time. So we had the multiple treatment groups. One in which the distance information was available, and it was sorted in that order. So closest distance, moving on to further away. The second one, which distance information was available, it wasn't random. It was randomly sorted, so people would see something that's further away before they would see something that's closer away. Another group would have distance information not available, but the offers were sorted by distance. So this way we could get to sort of the intermediate effects that was driving some of these behavioral effects.
Okay, so when you were saying that one change in rank, what do you mean by that?
Oh, sorry, come again?
One of your results you reported was that one change in rank was equivalent to, I don't know, was it 2.3, moving from 2.3 to 3 euros or whatever.
Right.
What are you talking about when you say a one change in rank?
Right, so what the idea is just saying, okay, so we're measuring the propensity that people have to redeem these coupons, right? So these are highly targeted based on real-time location. So as you go down the screen from, let's say, rank 1 to rank 2, your propensity will also go down, the primacy effects. But if you go up from rank 2 to rank 1, your propensity will go up. So the idea in that finding is that how much of a discount would it take for you to have the same propensity to redeem, holding constant the rank information. Right? So you hold one constant and you manipulate the other one, and you hold the other one constant, you manipulate the other ones.
Yes, question for you, Anindya.
Yes.
In your experiment, were you able to target people at the individual level, or the control group test groups were period based?
The second one or the first one? Second one, we were doing it at the individual level.
Second one.
So this was, and we worked a lot. It took a lot of effort. So we had to work with retailers to require people to sign in, because the previous panel we talked about it's not trivial to track people from smartphones to PCs to laptops. So we had to work with the retailers where when you want to buy something, you have to sign in. So that was condition A. Then we are also right now going back and looking at some of the hardware information. So Isaac talked about this long alphanumeric number, which is I think what he referred to is the MSISDN number, which is the unique hardware number that the device has. So right now we are working with the engineers in these companies to put the MSISDN number together with the SIM card number, and then correlate that with all the emails that we have about you. Okay? So it's not solving the problem fully, but at least we are able to make much more headway in that problem. In the experiment, we were using emails as a unique identifier.
So I had a question for Miklos. I've seen some studies which did something similar to what you're doing, where if people come co-locate, then they're more likely to catch the flu from somebody else. I mean, they're very closely tracked by. But what is the influence process here? Is it simply that people who co-locate have similar preferences, or they observe each other, or they communicate something? Do you have any sense of
So
what's driving
we don't believe that that there is an influence process, that there's an explicit influence process. I think that this is all kind of like learning about their preferences. So people who are at the same place at the same time very often are similar people. That's what we learn. And this is not a very strong statement, but the extent to which this happens is actually empirically surprising. And that's really only what's going on. We don't believe that these guys are talking to one another. But in fact, the referral network, that is an explicit influence network. And in fact, what is nice is that it seems that the magnitude of the effect of the explicit communication seems to be very similar than the magnitude of the effect of just being similar to the other person.
So following up the previous question, do you see a very low or high overlapping between the referral network and the co-location network?
No. And
That's very interesting.
that's a very good question. I should have said that there is no. These seem to be two kind of dispersed networks. So it's not. And which goes back to his question that it's not really communication. It's really just homophily, actually.
It's very interesting.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
So Miklos, this is for you. So I guess the question is, we're using co-location to infer something about common preferences.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of ideas of what kind of products and services this is going to work for?
Well, here we had a large variety of products. Food and beverage, consumer packaged goods. I don't think this is going to be working for like high involvement products where there is a very elaborate decision. It's very idiosyncratic to the person. These would be coupons that don't require that much involvement in my mind. Relatively cheaper products and so forth. So movie tickets, that sort of thing. I would not expect this behavior to be so much more predictable from the collocation data. If it were cars, for example, or something very complex that you kind of like ponder over for a longer period of time.
So then the related question: any interesting heterogeneity in your treatment effects? Any subpopulations that were more susceptible or showed sort of differences or?
Nothing that stood out. I mean, we saw the usual thing that is by now very well known, that Apple iOS users tend to be tad bit wealthier, younger compared to Android users. But those are kind of now well known. But yeah, I mean that's from what I remember. If that's what you're asking in terms of platform differences, we saw differences between. Going back to the question that Kirti asked Miklos about the kind of products. So the redemption rates for these coupons were great for restaurants, beverages, health, fitness centers, and increasingly with travel. Like one of the industries we see that people are engaging with mobile device and buying products related to travel, airline tickets. That is just very, very salient.
The co-location would be very relevant there. Right?
Yeah.
Already on a holiday together.
In fact,
we go for another one. Maybe.
Right. Yeah, we saw that with restaurants. Local searches for restaurants led to redemptions within 1 hour. Like 53% of local searches led to redemption within 1 hour. And you can imagine where if you and I are co-located, that we might hang out in the same place and socialize in the same place too. So.
So we've seen lately in digital the idea of targeting lookalikes. So people who go to certain sites might be more inclined to purchase your good because they've gone to the same sites other people have gone to purchase your product, which to me is kind of the same idea as like digital co-location. Have you thought about researching that, or do you have any findings on those topics?
The answer is no, but I agree with you that this is definitely an opportunity. So you don't just have to necessarily think about the physical space, but you know, your mental space of searching the same sites. That sort of thing would be. My prediction would be that it might actually work even better.
So there's actually some academic research in this space. I haven't done it, but one of our colleagues here, Foster Pro, has looked at issues like, if you and I are both spending a lot of time on, let's say, Facebook and CNN and ESPN and some of the brand side, then we can use our digital trail data to create a network of some sort of homophily, the fact that you and I have innate similar preferences, so the ad that you get to see would also be something that I get to see. And we build on that, and in the world of mobile, we are working on something very similar, where especially with showrooming, we often see that people inside a store going from site to site to site, and we are now tracking that as well. So the idea is for us to be able to create a network of people who inside a store are looking for similar products and also moving from similar sites to other sites. And then we would essentially amalgamate them and send them targeted offers and then look at redemption. So we haven't finished that study yet, but that's in the works.
Is there a last question? Well, if not, let's thank both the speakers.
Thank you.